So if you're looking at the modern logistics industry, right? A digital scanner telling a delivery driver that their next stop is, quote, 2 minutes away. Well, that isn't actually a helpful timing update.
No, not at all.
According to the internal language of drivers, it is a direct warning to prepare for emotional damage.
It's a threat, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So today we are completely tearing apart that frictionless illusion of online shopping.
Yeah.
Because you know the feeling, you sit on your couch, you find that thing you want, you click buy now, and it genuinely feels like you have just summoned an object out of the ether.
Right, like magic.
Totally. 24 hours later, a cardboard box simply materializes on your doorstep. But the reality of what happens in that final mile is, well, it's anything but magical.
It's actually incredibly messy.
Oh, it's chaotic. And we have a fantastic stack of sources for this deep dive today. We've got a set of script notes and a really highly detailed narrative document from a project titled Diaries, The Logistics of British Chaos.
It's a fascinating collection of accounts.
It really is. So our mission today is to shatter that pervasive idea that delivery work is, quote unquote, just driving. We want to look at how it actually operates as a daily exercise in tactical survival. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do.
Because my initial reaction to reading these documents was just pure cognitive dissonance. I mean, we imagine these drivers just cruising around, right, listening to podcasts, enjoying the scenery with no boss looking over their shoulder.
The dream of the open road.
Right. But the sources paint a picture of normal people navigating a completely hostile universe. They are fueled entirely by stale meal deals and caffeine, and they're driving these vans that just smell like old coffee and damped cardboard.
Yeah, it is a profound disconnect between the macro design of our global economy and the micro-reality of the people actually executing.
Totally.
Because, the modern world is engineered to be this frictionless vacuum.
Yeah.
Trillions of dollars have been spent optimizing supply chains so that you, the consumer, never have to think about distance.
Or physical barriers or weather or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the reality on the ground, that final mile we're talking about, is where all of that theoretical friction is suddenly downloaded onto just one human being.
Yeah, and that's heavy.
Every route starts with this pristine algorithmic optimism. The software calculates a perfectly efficient path. But the moment the van tires hit the actual pavement, that mathematical perfection just descends into pure, unpredictable chaos.
And the primary catalyst for that chaos, which this really caught me off guard when I was reading the sources, it's the technology itself.
Oh, absolutely. The tech is the starting point of failure.
Right. We are so conditioned to treat GPS and satellite navigation as this infallible voice of God. You type in an address, and it guides you safely to your destination.
You don't even question it.
Never. But in the delivery universe described in Delivery Diaries, the sat-nav is actively trying to betray the driver. I mean, the sources document sat-navs confidently routing vans directly into rivers.
Literally into the water.
Yes. Or through private working farmyards and down rural tracks that are just entirely inappropriate for any motor vehicle, let alone a massive van.
Well, this raises an important question about cognitive offloading, right? And how humans interact with predictive algorithms when they're under pressure.
Because you have to wonder why they follow it.
Exactly. Why does a rational adult drive a 2-ton commercial vehicle down a path that is clearly just flattened grass?
And I genuinely want to push back on that, actually, because reading these accounts, I kept asking myself, at what point does common sense override the screen?
You'd think it would kick in immediately.
Right. If the map is clearly sending you into a muddy field surrounded by sheep with zero signs of human civilization, why turn left?
It defies logic.
It really does. It feels like trusting an overconfident blindfolded tour guide straight into a wilderness survival situation. Why do they keep following it?
What's fascinating here is the psychological pressure cooker of the gig economy. The algorithm dictates the pace, and that pace is absolutely relentless.
There's no breathing room.
None. The driver is working against a clock that just doesn't care about environmental context. And when you are under that kind of acute time stress, the technology acts as a psychological crutch.
Ah, I see.
Because making independent navigational decisions, that takes time. It takes mental energy. And the driver is completely out of both. So you want to believe the machine knows a secret shortcut.
You're just hoping it's right.
Exactly. You surrender your spatial awareness to the algorithm right up until the lane gets so narrow that tree branches are violently scraping the sides of the van.
Sounds like a horror movie.
It kind of is. By the time the physical environment makes it undeniably clear the computer was wrong, You're already committed.
You can't turn back. And the sources give this beautifully agonizing example of this exact phenomenon. It's a delivery simply labeled Stop 47.
Oh, the cottage?
Yes.
Yeah.
The driver is desperately looking for an address, but the entire address line just says, quote, the cottage. There is no house number. There is no street name.
Because rural British naming conventions completely defy algorithmic logic.
They really do.
They are historical, they aren't sequential. So you end up with the cottage, old cottage, new cottage, and little cottage all within a 5-mile radius.
It's a nightmare for anyone not from there.
Right. A routing software treats an address as a discrete data point on a grid. But the cottage isn't a coordinate. It's basically a piece of local folklore.
That's a great way to put it. So the sat-nav cheerfully announces, you have arrived. And the driver looks up from the screen, and there is no house. There is no driveway.
Just nature.
Literally just an empty field, a single ancient tree, and a silently judging sheep.
The sheep is the best part of that story.
It's so cinematic.
Yeah.
And just as the driver is processing this, trying to figure out where they are, the customer sends a text message. And it has to be the most unhelpful, anxiety-inducing phrase in the English language.
Oh, I know it's coming.
Can't miss it, mate.
Yeah, that phrase perfectly encapsulates the fundamental gap in spatial perception here. Well, to the person who has lived there for 20 years, the hidden turnoff by that specific oak tree is incredibly obvious. Their mental map is deeply ingrained.
Right, because they drive it every single day.
Exactly. But to the driver, who was just parachuted into this environment by a flawed algorithm, the landscape is completely illegible.
Which traps the driver in a total nightmare scenario because the tech has failed and now they're stuck in the physical reality of rural geography.
They have to deal with the physical world now.
Right. And the sources highlight what happens next. And it shifts from just a navigational error to a deeply stressful physical confrontation.
The standoff.
The standoff. Imagine driving down one of these narrow, muddy country lanes. The hedgerows are so tight that the van's side mirrors are literally folding themselves in.
Scraping along the sides.
Yeah, it's incredibly tight. And then headlights appear. Another delivery van is coming from the exact opposite direction.
It's the inevitable failure point of a system that assumes roads are two-way, perfectly smooth vectors.
It's a total mechanical bottleneck. Two solid objects, one path. Both drivers hit the brakes. And what follows is described as this intense, silent standoff.
A battle of wills.
It really is like a classic Western movie duel at high noon. Except instead of drawing pistols, neither of them moves. They just stare at each other through their windshields like two exhausted cogs in the logistics machine, sizing each other up.
Figuring out who's going to brake first.
Exactly. It is a sheer battle over who has to shift into reverse gear.
And we have to analyze why reversing is such a profound penalty in this context.
Yeah, because normally reversing isn't that big of a deal.
Right. Reversing a standard commuter car down a suburban street is, mildly annoying. But reversing a heavy commercial van through a dark, muddy corridor filled with blind spots, hidden potholes, and jagged branches, that is an incredibly high-risk maneuver.
You could completely wreck the van.
One small slip, and the van is stuck in a ditch, which effectively ends the driver's entire shift and throws the master routing plan into complete disarray.
And while the driver is managing that extreme physical risk, what is that technology doing?
Oh, it's not helping.
Not at all. The digital scanner in the cab is loudly beeping, flashing alerts that the driver is falling behind schedule. I find that detail so darkly comedic.
It is incredibly tone-deaf.
The algorithm has zero spatial awareness of the mud, or the opposing van, or the sheer physical danger. It only understands time.
Exactly. The scanner is blind to physics. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this standoff reveals the hidden micro-society of these rural delivery routes.
A micro-society. Tell me more about that.
Well, because the algorithm offers no solution to this physical impasse, the humans have to invent their own rules. There is a silent, unspoken hierarchy between these drivers.
Ah, like a code of the road.
Yes. They evaluate the size of the vehicles, the distance to the nearest passing place, and honestly, the sheer exhaustion in each other's eyes.
Who looks more defeated?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Eventually, the psychological tension breaks. One driver calculates that fighting is costing more time than reversing, so they shift gears.
They give in.
A nod is exchanged. It's this silent respect between people who understand the shared misery, and the bottleneck is cleared. It is human empathy solving a problem that the machine created.
That's a really beautiful way to look at it. But surviving the drive, as the sources emphasize, is genuinely only half the battle.
The easy half, sometimes.
Right. Let's say the driver survives the standoff, successfully reverses through the mud, and miraculously finds the cottage. They pull into the driveway. They have reached the final node of the delivery.
The physical destination.
Yes. Now they have to navigate a completely different kind of chaos, which is the customer. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the psychology of how people behave when a delivery arrives is just baffling.
It shifts from a problem of physics to a problem of sociology.
It really does. The sources describe this phenomenon where customers seemingly evaporate the second the van parks.
They just vanish.
Like ghosts. The driver pulls up. The television is blaring inside. A dog is actively barking at the window. There is a car in the driveway with a warm engine. Clearly, a human is present.
All the signs of life.
All of them. The driver knocks on the door, and absolute silence. Not a footstep.
The narrative document jokingly compares this to NPCs loading late.
Oh, I love that comparison.
Right. Borrowing a concept from video games where non-playable characters only suddenly pop into existence when the game's code catches up.
It's so accurate.
The door stays shut, but the exact second the driver gives up, drops the package, and turns their back to walk away, the door violently swings open.
Yes. Why do they do that? Or you have the other variation, which is the wildlife observation customer.
After curtain twitchers.
The driver drops the parcel on the porch, takes the photo, and suddenly feels like they're being watched. They look up, and the customer is standing behind an upstairs curtain, completely motionless.
Just staring.
Just staring at the driver for full minutes. Not waving, not opening the window, just observing them like they are an unpredictable animal in a nature documentary. I mean, I don't understand it.
It is very strange behavior.
If you were waiting for a package and the package arrives, why treat the person handing it to you like an invading force?
Well, we have to look at the psychological boundary of the front door. For the homeowner, their house is a sanctuary.
Right, it's their safe space.
Exactly. It is a secure, private, interior life where they are entirely in control. But the gig economy fundamentally changes the nature of that property. By clicking Buy Now, the customer has effectively extended the retail storefront right up to their doormat.
Wow, yeah, I never thought about it like that.
But they haven't mentally adjusted to that reality. When the doorbell rings, it shatters the illusion of their private sanctuary and introduces a transactional, chaotic, external element.
That makes perfect sense. They want the magic trick of the package appearing, but they don't want to engage with the human labor required to perform the trick.
They want the product, not the process.
So they hide behind the curtain until the transaction is complete and the quote-unquote threat leaves the property.
Precisely. They view the driver as an intrusion. And this disconnect becomes glaringly obvious when you look at the same place delivery instructions.
Oh my gosh, the instructions.
Customers treat their front gardens not as a workplace for a courier, but as a personalized escape room. They leave clues instead of directions.
The instructions are genuinely unhinged. One driver in the source material highlights the absolute paradox of the instruction, quote, leave somewhere hidden but obvious.
It's an oxymoron.
I'm sorry, but that is literally quantum physics applied to a cardboard box.
Yeah.
You are asking the driver to create Schrodinger's parcel.
A physical impossibility.
An object that exists in a state of total invisibility to thieves, but blinding visibility to the homeowner. How is the driver supposed to calculate that?
They can't. And the expectation that drivers should be able to instantly decode a stranger's mind leads to massive inefficiencies.
Massive.
The sources detail a perfect case study of this with what they call the wooden frog incident.
Oh, the story blew my mind. Okay, so the driver gets to a house. The delivery notes specifically say, leave behind second flower pot near wooden frog.
Seems simple enough?
Okay, right. That sounds like a hyper-specific, helpful landmark. But the driver walks into the yard and finds no less than 12 different flower pots scattered across the grass.
Yeah, no frog.
And 0 frogs. So the driver is pacing back and forth across this lawn, holding a heavy box, trying to cross-reference flower pots, looking for amphibians.
Trying to debug a physical environment using outdated instructions.
Exactly. It's like a computer program where the variables have all been changed without telling the user. Meanwhile, the customer is doing the curtain twitching routine from an upstairs window.
Watching the whole thing unfold.
Watching the whole thing. Finally, after 3 minutes of the driver wandering around like a lost tourist, the customer leisurely opens the front door, laughs, and says, "Oh, sorry, mate, forgot to move the frog."
Just so casual.
And they deliver that line as if moving a decorative wooden frog is a completely standard, universally understood logistical update.
What that customer is demonstrating is a profound lack of empathy for the driver's reality.
A complete blind spot.
The customer assumes their personal, ever-changing garden decor is a fixed, objective map of the world. "I forgot to move the frog" implies the frog is nomadic, and that the driver should somehow know the frog's migration patterns.
Which is ridiculous.
To the customer, this is a quirky, harmless oversight in their cozy domestic life. To the driver, those 3 lost minutes represent a critical failure in their algorithmic schedule, pushing them closer to penalization.
Which means the driver essentially has to become a shock absorber for all of these system failures.
That's a good way to frame it.
To survive this daily gauntlet of malfunctioning tech, geographical traps, and socially awkward humans, the human driver is forced to rapidly evolve.
They have to, or they won't last.
The sources explicitly outline how drivers develop highly specialized superpowers within their first few months on the job.
It is extreme occupational adaptation. When an environment is consistently hostile to your primary objective, you either adapt your physical and mental capabilities, or you fail entirely.
And these adaptations are wild. Drivers develop the visual acuity to identify heavily faded, completely overgrown house numbers from a moving vehicle.
Like spotting a needle in a haystack at 30 miles an hour.
Right. They learn the geometry required to park a massive van at impossible angles on roads that barely exist. And then there is the sheer physical capacity they build to avoid the ultimate penalty.
A second trip of shame.
Yes, the second trip of shame.
The loadout management is a critical skill.
It's unbelievable. Rather than walk back to the van, a driver will simultaneously balance 4 oversized boxes, a personal mobile phone, the company's digital scanner, the heavy van keys, and just a massive amount of baseline stress.
They become human cargo pallets.
They transform themselves entirely. Because going back to the van means losing another 40 seconds, and the algorithm doesn't forgive 40 seconds.
But the narrative makes it clear that even with these evolved skills, the spatial awareness, the heavy lifting, the ability to read terrible maps, there's a hard limit to human adaptation.
There's only so much a person can do.
You can outsmart a bad routing app, but you cannot logically anticipate biological unpredictability.
Which brings us to the most chaotic detail in the entire source document. The chicken incident.
Oh, this is a prime example of how rural deliveries break every standard operating procedure.
So, a driver pulls up to a remote farmhouse. The environment is eerily quiet. There is a prominent, weathered sign on the front gate that clearly states, "Beware of dog."
Setting an expectation.
So the driver mentally prepares for a canine encounter. They gather the parcels, cautiously step through the gate, and immediately realize the sign is a lie.
Not a dog at all.
Because it isn't a dog. It is a flock of 20 chickens,
No.
and they are sprinting toward the driver at full, terrifying speed.
Now, urban residents might assume chickens are passive, harmless birds.
That is a dangerous assumption to make.
Very dangerous.
The sources describe absolute, multi-front chaos. One chicken aggressively flaps its way directly into the open cab of the delivery van.
Just taking over the vehicle.
Another bird somehow manages to ambush the driver and steal half of the sandwich they were holding.
A coordinated strike.
And a third chicken simply plants itself next to the van's tire and stares unblinkingly at the driver, looking like it has a deep, unresolved personal vendetta against logistics workers.
The psychological warfare element.
The driver is holding an expensive package, trying to guard the scanner, and actively fending off a coordinated poultry assault.
And we must look at the customer's response to this complete breakdown of order.
Oh, the customer response is the best part. The customer wanders out of the farmhouse, casually sipping from a mug of tea, surveys the scene of the driver fighting off a flock of sandwich-stealing birds, and calmly says, "Oh, don't worry, they're friendly."
Friendly.
Friendly. I'm sorry, but if a bird looks personally offended that I exist and forcibly takes my lunch, we are operating under completely different definitions of the word friendly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this incident represents the exact moment a driver reaches a state of total surrender.
They just give up.
Well, the human mind can only process so much dissonance. At a certain point in their career, the driver stops trying to force the chaotic reality to match the pristine algorithm.
Yeah.
They accept that delivery work exists in a parallel dimension,
A dimension where the rules of physics and logic are just entirely suspended.
Yes.
House numbers are decorative. GPS is a suggestion. Customers are invisible until you turn your back. And every quick shortcut is a trap designed to test your sanity.
You can't apply rational thought to it anymore.
You really can't. You can't apply rational thought to a missing wooden frog or an aggressive farmhouse chicken.
You can't.
Yeah.
And that is why the driver has to let go of normal logic. They are the human bridge connecting a perfectly calculated digital network to a wildly imperfect physical world.
And I think that brings this entire deep dive full circle. It perfectly contrasts the epic, grueling reality of the driver's journey with the blissful, casual ignorance of the customer sitting at the end of the line.
The disparity is huge.
The narrative document finishes with a scene that captures this perfectly. It's the final stop of the day.
The culmination of the route.
Exactly. The driver walks up to this final front door, and the sources describe them carrying the specific, exhausted energy of someone returning from a war zone.
Just completely depleted.
They are covered in mud. They are mentally drained from calculating reverse maneuvers. They have been traumatized by farm foul, and they have spent 9 hours fighting a digital scanner. They knock.
And the customer opens the door. Completely oblivious to the gauntlet that has just taken place, they smile and ask a seemingly innocuous question.
They say, "Busy day."
A standard, polite conversational filler.
But for the driver, it contains the weight of the universe. The driver doesn't yell. They don't list the potholes or the invisible frogs or the sandwich thief.
They don't have the energy.
They just stare at the customer and deliver a beautifully simple, heavily loaded reply. You have absolutely no idea.
It's the perfect encapsulation of the invisible labor behind our frictionless economy.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The next time you feel that little dopamine hit when you click buy now, or when your phone buzzes to say your package is approaching, I want you to step outside and genuinely look at your own property.
Take a real objective look.
Do you actually have a visible house number? Or is it hidden behind a massive bush? Because I am practically begging you on behalf of logistics workers everywhere. If it's not clear from the street in the dark, please fix it.
It makes a huge difference.
It does. Reflect on your own delivery instructions. Are you asking a stranger to navigate your yard based on the location of a nomadic garden gnome? Have you ever had an NPC moment where you intentionally waited behind the door until the driver walked away?
We're all guilty of it.
We are all participating in this system, and it's time we acknowledge the friction we are causing.
It is a vital exercise in empathy. But there is a final provocative thought that these sources leave us with.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we have spent this time painting a very human, visceral picture of drivers battling mud, elusive frogs, and militant poultry. But hovering silently over all of this physical chaos is the algorithm.
The ever-present scanner.
The scanner never stops tracking. It records every single second, which means every minute a driver loses because a customer is watching them through a curtain, or every delay caused by a chicken invading a van is ultimately being fed back into a centralized machine as raw data points.
Just converting human suffering into numbers on a spreadsheet.
Precisely. The system doesn't know why the van stopped. It just knows the van was inefficient.
That's chilling.
So this raises a fascinating question for the future of our supply chains. Will artificial intelligence eventually have to learn how to quantify this deeply weird human and biological chaos?
Will it even be able to?
Will the master logistics algorithms of tomorrow have to dynamically calculate chicken attacks or curtain-twitching delays into their predictive delivery estimates?
That is wild to think about.
It leaves us pondering a truly bizarre intersection. On one side, you have hyper-advanced AI trying to mathematically optimize the globe. And on the other, you have the completely unpredictable, stubbornly physical reality of rural geography and eccentric human behavior.
Two completely different worlds colliding.
And right now, the only mechanism preventing those two systems from completely destroying each other is a very tired human being in a muddy van.
A human being desperately trying to find a house that is just called the cottage? Please remember that the next time you expect a package to magically appear. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Catch you on the next one.